The sole purpose of this video is to provide a basic overview and orientation of your new apparatus. This video is not intended to act as or replace individualized driver-operator training. Individual fire departments may base guidelines, policies, and procedures tailored for best practices. Pierce Manufacturing and Hughes Fire Equipment representatives are not liable for injuries caused from acts resulting from actions inconsistent with the information provided within this video and/or accompanying manuals. Refer to the Operation and Maintenance Manual for complete details relating to the components and features of this apparatus. Only trained personnel should operate this vehicle or perform maintenance. You are responsible for learning how to operate this fire apparatus under all conditions without having to refer to the manual while operating at an emergency incident. This video will discuss types of warnings and caution labels. It is your responsibility to locate and identify each of the labels and understand the importance and associated hazards. Warning labels will point out procedure that must be taken or action that must be avoided to guard against the possibility of serious injury or death. Caution labels will advise you that there is a risk of damage to property if certain precautions are not followed. Continuous training, reviewing of operation and service manuals, developing good standardized practices will assist driver operators with a more complete understanding of the components and operation of this fire apparatus. As the driver operator of this vehicle, you are responsible for understanding the function of each component of the apparatus, maintaining control of the fire apparatus at all times while in operation. Make operational and functional changes while operating at an emergency without having to read operator's instructions or safety warning labels. Operate manual override and emergency shutdown procedures immediately if a component fails to operate properly. Components location may vary with each Pierce fire apparatus. Review the exact location of each component prior to operation. Major inconsistencies between your vehicle and the information contained in this video should be directed to your sales representative. Safe operation of any vehicle is the responsibility of the driver operator. You must learn the location and function of all controls, switches, gauges, valves, inlets, and discharges. Due to a higher center of gravity, heavy trucks have a significantly higher rollover tendency than other types of vehicles. To reduce the risk of rollover, avoid making sharp turns, excessive speed, and avoid abrupt maneuvers. In the event of a rollover crash, an unbelted person is significantly more likely to become injured or die than a person wearing a seatbelt. In the event of a crash, unbuckled occupants can also become a hazard to other occupants, as they may be thrown around inside the cab. Seatbelts are required while in operation. Please refer to your warranty certificates for details and information enclosed in your manuals. Customer-installed equipment must be mounted to withstand road travel and comply with NFPA 1901. Modifications such as drilling holes or welding to structural frame components of the chassis are not permitted. Contact Pierce for instruction and review of non-structural sheet metal or other dissimilar metals for modification. Follow the radio installation guide for further assistance on installing or mounting electronics. Before placing your new apparatus into service, perform a primary inspection of key components of the apparatus, including all fluid levels, anti-lock braking systems, electronic stability control, and automatic traction control. Weigh your apparatus to ensure that it conforms to axle and brake ratings. Never exceed the gross axle rating printed on the label inside the cab. Exceeding these ratings could lead to reduced component life, personal injury, or death. Review the use of auxiliary braking systems, compression brake, exhaust brake, electronic retarder, and hydraulic retarder. Before placing the apparatus in service, refer to the operational maintenance manuals. Information on the operation and maintenance functions for the components such as the pump, pressure governor, and foam systems, along with other options, is provided in either the Pierce manuals and/or other manufacturer support information delivered with the apparatus. If you need more information, please contact Hughes Fire Equipment. Congratulations, Portland International Airport, on your new Pierce fire apparatus, job number 34250. Please utilize this 5-digit job number when referencing your apparatus with Hughes Fire Equipment and Pierce Manufacturing. We'll get started on a brief orientation of your new vehicle. Let's start just under the front bumper. Under the front bumper, you find 2 forward-facing fog lights. Moving just inside of that location, you'll find 2 attachment points tow hooks. Moving up onto the face of the bumper on the outer edges, you'll find at an angle emergency warning lights. Just inside of that location, you'll find dual air horns on the passenger and driver side. Located in between the frame rails, you'll find 2 PA speaker electronic siren speakers. And moving directly in the center of the bumper, you'll find your mechanical siren. Let's move up onto the cab. On the outer edges, you'll find a marker and turn indicator light. Just inside of that location, you'll find the headlight structure housing low and high beam headlights. The high beam will be located on the inside. Located within the grille, you'll find the number 80. As we move up, you'll find emergency warning lights forward facing. There are 2 of them on each side. Moving on to the outer edge of the passenger side, you'll find your fire bell. And then just inside of that location on the passenger and driver's side, you'll find a grab handle for gaining access to the windshield area. Your windshield does have 3 windshield wipers across a seamless one-piece windshield. As we move to the outer edge, you'll find your mirror housing a convex and flat portion. Moving up to the brow of the apparatus, you'll find 5 clearance lights. And then just inside of that location, you'll find 2 forward-facing floodlights. Moving up onto the roof, you'll find your emergency warning light bar. At the very top side of the light bar in the very center, just behind it, you'll find a go light controlled from within inside the cab. Moving around now to the driver's side of the vehicle, let's first start with some warning lights. We have a set of lower warning lights and then upper warning lights. Various locations throughout your apparatus for those lights. As we move to the upper portion of the cab rear, you'll find a side-facing floodlight. And then as we move to the rear section of the body, you'll find 2 side-facing floodlights. Located on the rear section of the cab, you'll find a side-facing water level indicator. Let's move down to the lower right corner of the cab where you'll find a D handle which gains access into a lower cab compartment. And then let's move now to the mid section of your apparatus. We'll start with a few items within the pump panel area, first starting in the upper left with backboard storage and then also the 2 cross lays located. And at the very top section is where we'll start discussing some of the items within your pump panel. Let's first start on the left with the foam level B. It has a red background. That's the module for your foam system. Moving just to the right, you'll find your master pump intake. Further to the right, you'll find your gauge regarding the pump discharge. All the way to the very far right-hand side in the blue module is where you'll find your water tank level indicator. And as we move down in between the 2 master gauges, you'll find your test gauge ports for vacuum and pressure. They are currently plugged and are for testing purposes. Let's move down now onto the pump panel where you'll find your foam system instructions on the left-hand side placard. And then just to the right, you'll find your Husky Foam System 12. That's located with the module in red. Moving to the right, you'll find the pump boss. If illuminated, it would be yellow in color. It's a check engine light. As we move to the right, you'll find a digital readout for the RPM of the vehicle. And then moving just further to the right, you'll find if illuminated, it would be a stop engine, which would be red. Let's move down lower on the pump boss where you'll find a blue menu button. This allows you to scroll through the various functions of the pump boss pressure throttle governor. You also have diagnostic engine information displaying on this module. And then to the far right, you'll find a red silence button, allowing you to silence any audible alarms that may be sounding created through the pump boss. As we move down, you'll find your pressure or RPM mode, pressure and throttle. Those are the 2 options you have. Located in the center, you'll find menu information digitally displayed. And then to the right, if your pump is properly engaged, you'll find a throttle ready green indicator light. Just down from that location, you'll find a green preset button, allowing you to preset predetermined pressures or throttle position. Just down from that location, you'll find a right to increase throttle, left to decrease throttle, and press in the center for idle position. Let's continue with some of the items within this area. First, starting to the very far right side, you'll find your rear inlet. It's a wheel gauge. You do have an open and close indicator down in the lower section, red indicating closed, green indicating it is open. As we move further down, you'll find an audible speaker. That speaker does have an outer edge bezel, which allows you to dampen or increase sound. As we move to the right, you'll find the primer for the rear intake. It is a push to prime air prime, and there are priming instructions just below it. Further down, you'll find your tank fill. And then as we move down, you'll find two discharges, driver's side rear A and driver's side rear B. Moving to the far right, you'll find your reel discharge and then also a recirculating line. This is going to be a twist, not a pull. Let's move down further onto the pump panel, identify a few more of these items. First, starting on the left, you'll find all of your crosslays located in the upper portion, color-coded and labeled. Moving to the right, you'll find your deluge discharge. It's a wheel valve also. Moving down, we'll talk a little bit about this in the next set of images. This is your minimum operation maintenance schedule, and we'll go over that in just a moment. Moving further down, you'll find all of your discharges. These are your 2.5-inch discharges. And then to the right, you'll find your large diameter discharge on the passenger side. Let's move down just to the right where you'll find your Husky 12 foam system specifications. We saw the indication placard for the directions. As we move further down, you'll find the passenger side number 4 discharge. And then moving to the right, you'll find a set of switches, first panel lights, an indicator light indicating OK to pump, and a red air horn button. As we move to the far right, you'll find your recirculating line and engine cooler. Once again, those are twist, not pull. As we move down, you'll find the main fire pump primer. It is also an air prime with instructions just below. And then also your tank to pump. Do note that in is open and out is closed. As we move down to the far right, we've got a few warning labels here. Pressure hazard regarding caps may be under pressure. Be cautious when opening them. And then also we have an entire warm water rinse system. That's going to be the lower section just below the instructions. We've got some indicators here and also switches indicating on and off, and then also 12-volt heat. To the right and slightly above is where you'll find your two 2.5-inch discharges. You'll also find a warning label here that only trained personnel should operate this piece of equipment and only after they received proper training. Just down from that, you'll find the driver's side auxiliary inlet, which is a female inlet. Let's move just to the right where you'll find your main inlet. And then as we move further to the right, you'll find your main pump drain. Let's move downward on the pump panel itself, where we'll find this pan door. Inside the pan door, you'll find instructions on the actual door itself regarding your foam system fill. As we move down to the lower left, you'll find the red Watrous placard indicating the type of pump that you have. Let's move down to the left side. Let's talk a little bit about that warm water rinse. This is going to be the outlet for it. Just to the right, you'll find the warm water fill. And then once again, as we move further to the right, you'll find that 2.5-inch female auxiliary inlet. Let's move across the bottom of the pump area on your panel, and we'll find these drains. These are all color-coded and labeled. As we move up to the very top, that's that red Watrous placard. And moving to the right, this is your auxiliary foam functions and fill operations. At the very top, we do have a warning here, foam failure. Do not mix different brands or consistencies of foam. As we move to the right, we also have a warning label here that you should not ride on the side of your vehicle while it's in motion. The capacity of your pump is 1,500 GPM. Let's take a look at the minimum operation maintenance schedule for 150, 200, and 250 PSI. On the left-hand side of the placard is the GPMs at test pressure. On the right-hand side is the associated RPM with that test pressure. The upper left-hand corner does have your 5-digit job number, and the lower right has a governed speed of 2,100 RPMs. As we move down just to the very base area, you'll find your foam pump intake drain, foam pump discharge drain, rear inlet drain, and then also your manifold drain. Let's go ahead and move from this location to the body on the driver's side. First, we'll start with the first door. It does have a reverse hinge on it. The D handle gains access inside. We'll take a look in the upper left-hand corner of this compartment on the rear wall.
or I should say the vertical wall. As we start on the left, you'll find the G1, which stands for generated power. These are the breakers regarding your generator. As we move to the back wall, you'll find the Freedom HF. This is going to be an inverter charger. And as we move to the furthest right-hand side, you'll find this box indicating a dial inside for settings for your ventilation system or air management throughout the vehicle. That will operate when plugged into shore power. As we move to the compartment directly over the rear axle, you'll find a tool board. D-handle gains access to the tool board. On the hinged side of that is a lock when it is moved into the full open position. To restore that, you will need to lift this lock to gain access to close it and restore it back to its original position. As we move underneath, you'll find SCBA bottle locations with retaining straps. I would like to point out to the very far right-hand side, there's a combination door. It does have a silver ultra low sulfur diesel. As you move the flap down, it exposes the 4.5 US gallon DEF tank, which is the blue cap. Let's move to the rear compartment. Let's first start at the very bottom where you'll find ladder storage for your little giant. As we move upward from that location, you'll find a pull-out tray. The release mechanism is on the right-hand side. As we move up to the very rear section of the apparatus vertical wall, you'll find a Shoreline inverter outlet. This is going to be a 120 20 amp outlet. Let's go ahead and move to the rear of the apparatus. We'll start down in the lower corner. This is where you'll find the clearance marker light. It's on a rubber arm. As we move just inside of that location, you'll find the tail lights housing an emergency light, brake light, turn, and a reverse light. Moving up from that location, you'll find a rear-facing emergency warning light, and then further up, you'll find rear-facing floodlights. We move all the way to the top, you'll find D-handle storage locations for your rigid suction. As we move downward, you'll find two 2.5-inch discharges on the driver's side. And then as we move to the passenger side, you'll find a rear inlet. Let's take a look at some close-ups. First, starting down at the lower compartment with the door in the open position, you can see there's a pull-out tray in the lower section. We also have an air eject at the lower portion just above the tail lights, and then also hose bed lights, rear scene lights, and an air suspension. Moving toward the 2.5-inch discharges, you can see they're clearly color-coded and labeled. Moving further to the right, we do have some warning labels here. First, a warning label regarding pressure hazard. Caps may be under pressure. Be cautious when opening them. And then to the right, be cautious when climbing onto the rear section of the apparatus. We have a warning label for that. All the way to the right-hand side of the Pierce logo, you'll find an entanglement hazard. This is because lines coming from aloft could pose a potential entanglement. Further to the right, you'll find a fall hazard. Never ride on a vehicle while it's in motion. Moving further to the right, you'll find your large diameter rear inlet. As we take a look in those two compartments in the upper portion, you'll find storage location for your suction tubes. Moving back down to the very bottom, you'll find a Shoreline inlet. This is an auto eject plug. It is a 120 VAC 30 amp plug. We also have a DC amps meter at the very top, and when you're plugged into shore power, the green light will illuminate, indicating you're receiving power. Let's move up to the very top of the apparatus, take a quick look at the items in this area. First, just a general view of the top of the apparatus. Let's start with a few of the top fill locations. This is your top fill water tank, and then moving to the right, you'll find your foam tank B. We do have a warning label on that. Do not mix different brands or consistencies of foam for the possibility of foam failure. Let's take a look in the dunnage area where you'll find your wheel to open and close or activate the master stream device. We also have a booster line located in this area where you'll find a tension or release knob, also a manual rewind at the very top, and then also a push button on the far right to engage the electric motor for rewind. A couple more close-ups of the items that we just talked about. Let's spin around and take a look at the cab section. We do have a couple warning labels here. This is a non-walking surface, so we have these warning labels indicating that. As we moved to the ladder section, you'll find a 24-foot extension ladder, a 14-foot roof ladder. You'll also find your Husky 12 foam system reservoir for the hydraulic oil. You'll also have a storage mid location just in front of the hose bed. Moving now just to the right-hand side of that, you'll find the Husky 12 foam system hydraulic reservoir. There's a fill location and also sight gauge. As we move to the side, you'll find the two compartments on the passenger and also two compartments on the driver's side. These are your hatch compartments. They do have LED lighting inside. Let's now move around to the passenger side of the vehicle. We'll start with the very rear compartment. Once we gain access inside, you will find an additional breaker box panel. Let's talk a little bit about what this is for. You can see it's labeled S1, which stands for shore power. This will be where your shore power is plugged into the rear of the apparatus. That is the breaker box for that outlet. You also find generator and also shoreline plugs throughout your vehicle. They are clearly marked. As we move just in front of and rear of the axle, you'll find SCBA bottle storage and then also the hydraulic reservoir for your ladder rack. This is the equipment rack that we just talked about. You can see there's a fill location and also site information for the oil in that hydraulic reservoir. As we move just in front of the rear axle, you'll find an amber light, and you'll also find this warning label that extremely hot diesel exhaust temperatures. Be cautious where you park your vehicle. As we move to the mid location at the upper portion, you'll find backboard storage. This is directly behind the rear cab wall. And then you'll also find all of your cross lays, clearly color-coded and labeled. Let's move downward from this location, just a general view of your entire passenger side pump panel. We'll start in the upper left-hand corner with the powered equipment rack. We do have a danger label located here regarding the movement of that device, and also instructions for raise and lower. In the upper portion, you'll find the switch which engages the master for on and off, and then also the lift up or down with a green indicator when the master is on. Just beneath that, you'll find an audible speaker here. The outer edge of that speaker does allow you to dampen the sound. Once again, some additional warning labels here regarding pressure hazards. Caps may be under pressure. Be cautious when opening them. As we look inside behind the panel, you'll find your hose reel master. It's the red switch. And as we move back out to the panel itself, we have a few warning labels here regarding entanglement hazard and also fall hazard. As we move down to the lower section, you'll find discharge drains, color-coded. Moving up to the right-hand side, you'll find your large diameter passenger side discharge and also the number 2.5 inch passenger side discharge. As we move down to the lower right, you'll find two passenger side auxiliary inlets. Those are female inlets. You'll also find the manifold drain just under the diamond plate area. Moving just forward to the diamond plate area, you'll find your passenger side auxiliary inlet drain and passenger side auxiliary inlet drain for the two auxiliary inlets above. Now to the side of the cab area, once again down in the lower left-hand corner of the cab, you'll find a D-handle gains access into a small compartment. Your vehicle is also equipped with electronic door locks. There is a keypad on the passenger and driver side. This is the access panel. As we move now to an image with the powered equipment rack in the down position, you can see access to the 24-foot and 14-foot ladder, and then also all of your long tools. Let's move around now to the driver's side of the vehicle. We'll start with the cab front in the driver's space. First, affixed to the door panel, you'll find all of your information and warning labels. You'll also find on the right-hand side the access panel for your electronic key locks. As we look inside, we do have all of our warning labels here, in addition with the number of personnel that can ride in the vehicle, which is a capacity of 6. As we move to the placard here, this is the manufactured by Pierce for Port of Portland. You can see this has the 5-digit job number, gross vehicle weight rating, cold tire inflation, VIN number, fluid capacities for the components, and fluid types. Moving to the left knee of the operator, you'll find your master battery switch. Just to the right, you'll find your tech module and engine transmission ABS diagnostic port. Just beneath that, we have some switches for ABS diagnostics, DPF regen, engine diagnostics, and also regen inhibit. To the right, you'll find the diagnostic display port. Just up from this location, you'll find your pump shift. We have instructions on this placard for road to pump and then also from pump to road. Just as a reminder, you'll need 2 green indicators when exiting the cab for pump operations. Let's move to the right-hand side of the steering column, where you'll find all of your scene lights, driver alley lights, front scene lights, officer lights, and load manager. Just beneath that, you'll find the driver's side scene and rear scene lights, and also officer side scene lights. At the very bottom, you'll find your electronic siren. When any of these switches have been activated, you can see the green indication around the outer edge. Just to the right, you'll find your main mirror and also convex mirror controls. As we move to the dash on the left, you'll find your start switch and ignition switch. Just inside of that location, you'll find a switch labeled EM, which stands for Emergency Master. This will activate and deactivate all of your emergency warning lights. Just to the right, you'll find your headlight switch, and further to the right, you'll find a switch labeled Panel. This allows you to brighten or dim the lights within the preview of the operator. Let's move to the opposite side of the steering column, where you'll find the OK to engage the high idle, indicator, and also switch. As we move up to the dash itself, on the left you'll find the transmission, oil, DEF level, and water temperature. Moving to the right, you'll find rear air, front air, fuel, and also the volts. Located in the center, you'll find your tachometer and speedometer. Diagnostic information will display above and below the speedometer. Moving just to the right of the panel, you'll find your command zone. Tremendous amount of information right here at your fingertips. Please see your owner's manual for more information. As we move further to the right, we've got a set of switches, tire change, air suspension dump, mirror heat, engine brake on and off, and also an engine brake settings for low, medium, and high, and also the fog lights. The yellow diamond is your pull to apply your system parking brake and push to release. To the right, you'll find your Allison transmission pad with an indication here to pump in drive. As we move further to the right, you'll find climate control, and just under the climate control, you'll find 12-volt access via USB and barrel style. Moving overhead of the operator's position, you'll find this yellow placard indicating the height of your vehicle, 10 feet, 4.5 inches, length 30 feet, 3 inches, gross vehicle weight rating, 46,500 pounds. If you make any adjustments to your vehicle, please update this placard. Let's move just to the right of this placard where you'll find some switches. First, starting on the left-hand side with the emergency master, front warning, side warning, airport light, perimeter lights, rear warning, dimmer, and opticom. As we move to the right, you'll find your AM/FM radio and weather band. Moving further to the right, you'll find a few panels. They do have some stickers on them. This candy cane style sticker is just indicating that there is spare wiring behind the panel, and it does offer the wiring type and also the option number. Moving further to the right, you'll find your siren and PA speaker. Moving to the very center of the vehicle, you'll find a forward-facing camera. I would like to point out the red puck style light located in the very center. This is indicating if flashing, do not move your apparatus. You have either your equipment rack down or a compartment or door in the open position. Let's go ahead and go behind the driver's seat where you'll find an audible speaker. It does have volume on it. This is for when your vehicle is in reverse. It will activate the camera and audio from the rear of the apparatus. You'll also find 12-volt access. Moving now to the rear compartment of the cab affixed to the door panels, you'll find all of our informational warning labels. You'll also find a red gram handle to gain access inside. Your vehicle does have compartments that are rear facing. This one happens to have netting above and also a cold section in the lower portion. As we move overhead, you'll find lights push on and off, also the stereo speaker, and also all of your seats across the rear wall, 2 SCBA seats located in the center, and 2 fold-down seats on the outer edge. As we move to the rear section of the apparatus, you'll find your daily checks for oil and transmission. As we now move around to the passenger side, same warning labels affixed to the door panel, and also you'll find webbing and also interior lighting inside that webbing compartment. Let's go ahead and move now to the passenger or officer's area. On the exterior, you'll find your panel for the door locks. Just inside that location, you'll find the door panel has all of our safety and warning information. As we move inside the cab, on the A pillar is where you'll find the fill location for your windshield wiper fluid. This vehicle is equipped with a supplemental restraint system airbag. That's the location of the airbag, and I also have a warning label here regarding do not mount anything within this vicinity. As we move to the center section, you'll find a pedestal housing the push buttons for the bell, mechanical siren, and siren brake. On top of that is the go light control. As we move overhead of the officer position, you'll find the push on and off white or red lens. You'll also find a switch panel housing the driver's alley light, front scene light, officer alley light, driver's scene light, rear scene light, and officer scene light. There are 2 switches that are for future switch locations if you find them necessary. Congratulations, Port of Portland, on your new Pierce Fire apparatus, job number 34250. If you have any questions regarding your apparatus, please contact your Hughes Fire sales representative.